Thank you so much for that recitation, Sayyid Haydar Jaizani. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back to Hijab and Etiquette. Now today we're going to be discussing the topic of interacting with non-Muslims while observing our hijab. As ever, I'm joined by my special guest, Sister Masuma Jafar. Assalamu alaikum, sister.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
I guess also with regards to the physical hijab as well, like you find that many sisters these days, you know, they're a bit of a fan of the old makeup, nail polish, you know, they've even come out with halal nail polishes now apparently. And another thing as well, Mendi. Now my first mosque that I ever went to was in Leicester, and the ladies every Eid they would get their Mendi cones out, and I'd always get a nice design on my hands. Like, is it really appropriate for us to be wearing and adorning ourselves in such a way in front of non-mahrams?
Again, the ruling is you have to decide. Mm-hmm. So is this attractive to the opposite sex?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is it something that is going to make them look at you in the wrong way?
Okay. Mm-hmm. So
it's something you have to decide. You know, if you're in a very religious country like Qom, for instance, mm-hmm. Or you know, in Karbala or somewhere like that, mm-hmm. and you wear makeup, you will probably stand out.
Oh yes, you will. Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the West, where you know mostly everyone is wearing makeup, and you put on a little bit of makeup, you're not going to stand out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So again, realizing the culture that you're living in,
mm-hmm.
and whether it's making you stand out or not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to nail polish and Mendi, again, I think first and foremost, try to figure out your intention for wearing it.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you wearing it?
Mm-hmm.
And be true to yourself again.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times it is to get attention.
Yeah, to look beautiful,
yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to look beautiful for the girls, you're going to look beautiful for the guys as well.
Oh,
so you can't just say that I'm doing it so that my friends think I am beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they think you're beautiful, guys are going to think you're beautiful as well.
Yes, of course.
Again, if you're saying I'm doing it for myself, really? If you're at home the whole day and you weren't going out anywhere, would you do all of that?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
be true to yourself. It's, you know, what's the intention behind it?
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, realize whether it is something that's attractive. I mean, you know, I know a few guys who actually look at Mendi and think that it looks like you've just scribbled all over your hand.
I've met some guys like that, yeah.
So again, you know, for them it doesn't look attractive. So maybe
for some it does though.
Yeah. So again, it's realizing whether it is something that is attractive, that it will stand out, whether it will make, you know, a guy look at you, and from what perspective is he looking at you?
Yeah.
It's, you know, I'm not saying look awful.
Yeah.
You know, you can look presentable, you can look, you know, professional, you can look you know, you can look nice, but you don't have to make yourself look attractive to the opposite gender.
No.
There's a difference.
No, yes, that makes a lot of sense. And actually that makes your life quite easy actually. Like with whatever action you're doing, you just stop yourself and think, okay, what is my intention behind this? Is my intention pure, or could be something that could potentially, you know, damaging to myself?
I think the other thing as well, when you're checking your intention out, is maybe think to yourself, if my imam was here in front of me, would I be okay the way I'm dressed?
That's a really nice way of putting it, actually. Like, subhanallah, how many things would we change about ourselves, about not just like our bodies, but like how we act, like the things that we have in our possession, in our homes, in our offices, like how much we would change. Like,
and the sad thing is we think we'll change it when the imam comes, but it's going to be too late then.
No,
we need to change it now.
That's the sad thing, you know. Our Imam, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hasten his reappearance, he only needs 313 commanders, and yet millions go to Karbala every year, and yet he doesn't have the manpower as such, and that's something that's something we should be ashamed of, really.
For sure.
Moving on to the inner hijab. The part of the hijab that often we neglect and we push to the side because we're shallow, we only really want to deal with what we can see, kind of thing. But it's just basically like we can't segregate ourselves completely from men. You know, we have to deal with men in our daily lives, at work, when we're out shopping, you know, doing, you know, the basic things in our lives, basically. And I guess just like, how do we keep a distance between us and non-mahram men so these inappropriate conversations and relationships don't occur?
Again, the hijab actually helps you with that, because it already forms a barrier.
Yes.
And the beauty of the hijab is it allows you to then interact with the opposite gender, because if you weren't wearing the hijab, then you wouldn't, it would be much more difficult. So it allows you to interact. It keeps a barrier there. So just by wearing the hijab, men will behave in a different way towards me.
They'll give you more respect.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they won't just, have the silly banter that they would have normally, because they see me with value.
Yeah.
They see me with respect.
Yeah.
So the barrier is already there. Now, if I choose to break that barrier by behaving inappropriately, then they will take my lead and behave inappropriately towards me as well.
Yes.
So I may be dressed in hijab, in the physical hijab, but the interaction may not be hijabi. So I need to be aware of that. The fiqh ruling is that there should be no unnecessary socializing.
Yeah.
What is unnecessary socializing?
It's a good question.
Honestly, it's up to you. You have to decide, and you have to be true
to your
to yourself.
gut feeling, what your conscience tells you
Exactly.
as such. I guess one of the hardest things actually with interacting with non-mahrams is not actually like in the physical sense of like work, school or whatever, but actually nowadays it's social media. We have guys on our Snapchat and our Instagrams and our Facebook, and like, we poke each other and things like that. It's just
Makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
a totally different generation.
Bless your heart, bless your heart.
But yeah, the sad thing is, for some reason, girls tend to think that hijab is not there for the internet. So I actually, I've seen posts of girls who wear amazing hijab, who are very, very, very concerned about their hijab, will put photos of them without hijab, or even if they are wearing hijab in their photos, there will be parts that the hijab will not be as strict or as it should be. So maybe their arms will be showing, maybe their legs, they may have makeup on. There are, when you go to a wiladat program, when you go to a wedding, that's when you dress up and you look beautiful. And then you take a selfie of yourself and you put it as your profile photo. And that photo is there for anyone to look at for as long as they want. It's not you just passing by them. They can actually sit there and stare at that photo.
And you don't know who's looking at that photo as well. I mean, one thing I've struggled with, particularly after I converted, was the amount of harassment that I've got online from men. And even though I've taken steps where, like, I used to have the attitude where, like, oh, I can be friends with a guy, like it doesn't matter, it's no big deal, but actually now I'm a lot stricter. If I have men on my social media, it's for a particular purpose. It's not for something aimless as such. But even when I stopped uploading pictures of myself, in like my profile picture, for example, I was still getting harassed, and it's such an issue. It's not just me. I know so many sisters who feel exactly the same. And I guess just like some people might just say, oh, well, maybe you should just avoid taking pictures of yourself altogether. Like, even if you have the most perfect hijab, right? Like, you're just sitting there, like, your physical hijab's okay, you're not doing like anything suggestive in your pose or anything. What do you think? Do you think that's quite extremist?
Again, very personal. If you feel uncomfortable, if you don't want your photo to be out there, that's your choice and that's your right. If you are fully covered and you want to put your photo there because you want to share a moment. So, I mean, imagine if you've got your photo in front of the Zari and you want to just share that with people.
Yeah.
That's your choice. And so if a man decides to look at that in the wrong way, then that is his problem, not yours. So it has to be your choice, but the minimum has to be there, Sharia-wise. That you need to ensure that when it comes to unnecessary socializing, it's within the the internet as well. It's not just about face-to-face socializing, but if I'm sitting there, sending messages which are not appropriate, again, that's unnecessary socializing.
Yes.
If I'm poking someone, I don't know whether that's accepted or not. So, again, I have to be true to myself. What does it mean that I'm poking him? What is it,
basically, there's this thing on Facebook, and if you want to get someone's attention, but you don't really want to send them a message as such, I don't know, maybe you're feeling a bit lazy, there's a button that you can press called poke, and basically that notification comes up on the other person's profile. So
okay.
Yeah, I think just the fact, like, it's, the whole purpose of that is to get someone's attention. If you're doing that to a guy, questionable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is very, very personal. And the only thing that I think will help you to make the right decisions is to be true to yourself. Check your niyyah out. Would you be doing this in front of the imam of your time? Is it something that you could justify if God asked you about it? Could you actually answer, and actually explain to him that it was okay to do that? Be true to yourself. Realize that the only person that's going to be affected is you. And you care about yourself too much to do that.
What about, what if you have a brother on your social media, or say like you've gone on a dating website to find a potential husband? Like, is that okay? Is that okay to do that? What steps should you take to make it appropriate, if not?
So, as far as I'm not very savvy when it comes to all of these things, but as far as I understand, if you have a brother on your social media, then he has, again, depending on your privacy setting, he has access to your friends' photos as well as yours?
No, not
like
necessarily,
no?
no.
It depends on the privacy setting that they've put in.
Yeah.
So again, realising that, there are privacy settings that you can put in, and your friends can put in. So, sort of taking all of that into account, because you may have photos where you look amazing and you want to share it with your girlfriends, and that's fine. That's totally your decision to do, but make sure then that it's not accessible to everyone who is your friend in social media. What was the other thing you asked me? I'm sorry, I've forgotten.
It's all right. That's the only thing I asked you, really. I guess just moving on from that, I guess, there might be sisters watching this, and they might be asking themselves some hard questions, and they might be thinking, oh my goodness, like, I'm going about this all the wrong way. And and sometimes, like, when we feel like we've done something wrong, like, we have the tendency to sometimes beat ourselves up about it as such. But what would you say to a sister who's maybe watching this, who thinks, oh no, I've done everything wrong? Like, how should you pick herself up and improve herself?
First and foremost, be proud that you've noticed that you're doing things wrong.
Alhamdulillah, yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
That's the first step of growth.
It is yaqeen, it's like that certainty as
exactly,
such. Yeah.
Exactly. So, the fact that you've actually taken on board the guidance that God has given you through whatever means it's come to you, and you're trying to better yourself. That's huge. Secondly, God created us knowing that we would make mistakes, and that's why He tells us that the doors of Tawbah are open. So in the dua by Imam Sajjad alayhi salam, where he said, he talks about the dua of Tabi'in, where he talks about the fact that the doors of Tawbah are open. So forget about looking for a key. You don't even have to knock. It's open. All you have to do is just walk through it. It's as simple as that. God is waiting for us to turn back to Him. And not only does He wait for us to turn back to Him, He actually guides us to turn back to Him. So He doesn't just wait for us to make the first step. He takes the first step in turning towards us to make us turn back to Him. And that's so beautiful. It's so amazing. But realize that Tawbah comes in steps. So yes, you feel regret for doing what you've done. That's just the first step. Then there must be remorse. So you want to ensure you don't do that thing again. So thinking about, how will I not be pulled back into this?
What if, say, you take all the steps and you do tawbah, but like, say you do slip up and like you do make that mistake again, what do? Do you just do tawbah all over again?
It's the same. So it's regret, remorse, and rectify.
Okay.
So the regret is the first step, where I actually feel bad for what I've done. then that should lead on to remorse, where I don't want to be in this position again, so I need to set into position steps which will stop me from doing that. So it may be the friend circle I have, it may be the places I'm going to, whatever it is that's making me go down this pathway, and then rectify the wrong. So if I haven't been wearing hijab, then I should put it on. If I have been wearing it but not properly, then I better it. You know, it's actually rectifying the wrong, righting the wrong. It's like, for example, if I dropped your cup of tea on the floor on this beautiful white rug and said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then just sat back, it doesn't show sorry. You know, there has to be.
Not at all.
I need to help clean it up because I made the mistake. So again, when I've done something wrong, clean up the mess, make it right. That's really, really important. And if you slip again, God is forgiving. You know, He'll forgive. But it's you know, you can't just keep slipping and okaying it. You need to think about, what is it that's making you slip? How can I not go down this path? If I truly am sorry, then I need to make sure that I'm putting into place steps which will stop me from committing that sin again.
Okay. So just looking at it with a practical view, basically. Okay, so what kind of things do you think make us slip with our hijab? What are some of the kind of what's the word? What are some of the regular things that make us slip with our hijab, and how can we overcome them? What practical steps can we take?
So first and foremost, with any sin, it's to do with the ego, the pride that we have. You know, we want to do things our way. We don't like being told what to do. So that will come into any aspect of ibadah. Secondly, we like to be noticed. We like to be appreciated. If we're not getting that at home, we will look elsewhere.
Yes.
So again, you know, noticing that about yourself. So you may not be able to control the people around you, but realizing that, okay, you know what, they don't appreciate me, but God does.
Yeah.
So building that relationship with God is really, really important. Relying on God rather than others for your fulfillment is really important.
How can we do that though? Because like often we feel so far away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because we can't comprehend Him, let alone see Him.
The best way to actually build a relationship with God is to talk to Him continuously.
Okay.
So not just, it's not about just the prayer. It's actually talking to Him. You know, when something good happens in my life, He's the first, you know, entity I want to tell. When something bad happens, He's the one I'll complain to. You know, when I need counselling, He's my counsellor. You know, he's my best friend, He's my counsellor, He's my teacher, He's my everything. And in that way, then, yes, I will still share it with my husband and my children, but I don't feel the need to as much because I've shared it with the one that matters the most to me.
Allahu Akbar. Allah comes first, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me once again. May Allah bless your soul. Up next, my dear viewers, we will be answering your fiqh questions in regards to marriage, inshallah.